Hi, I'm Mark Devey, head of Perkiomen School. Good to see all of you today. We are live at the Creamery. So today and on some other occasions, I'm going to interview some important members of the Perkiomen community. Glad you're able to join us. Liam Brassington, nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Mr. Devey.
So welcome to Live at the Creamery. I'm living in a building that was built in the 1850s, so it's not long before Perkiomen was founded. And as all of us are being quarantined at the moment, it's a great opportunity to connect with some alumni and important members of our community, and one of those individuals is you. So thanks for being on today.
Thank you, I appreciate the opportunity.
So you're just a year out of Perkiomen, and you're venturing into your college career at Villanova. So, when you look back at your Perkiomen experience, what are some of the things that gave you a foundation, Liam?
Well, first, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. And I think to start, it begins with the concept of community. And it's just for me, as being such an outgoing person, I'm always interested in just connecting with the people around me. So to be in a place that is as warm and as just interconnected as the school was for me, it was really valuable. So to be able to leverage relationships with faculty and students is just, I don't know how other people go about their lives without it, because it's so apparent for me when I was there. In terms of specific experiences, I feel like sports were a significant thing for me, because they gave me the chance to you learn a lot about yourself playing sports. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to be a captain for 2 teams, and I got to work with my teammates to win championships and go to states, and we worked hard together, and to not only live and breathe with my teammates who are also my classmates. It's a deeper bond, and that's something that it gave me is something that I miss today, because I'm not playing sports currently, but to be able to go through your high school career with the same guys and with the same people, and do a lot of the same things with, it's something you miss. But I definitely think it gives me that center of team, that center of community, that's so crucial for a lot of people. And then I think in terms of academics, I really developed close relationships with my teachers, and they began to, as I progressed, they understood me, and they understood my learning style, and they also understood that they were able to offer insights and things that could motivate me further in the classroom. And for me, that was that back and forth was so valuable, and I'm all better for it.
Well, I was fortunate enough to coach you a little bit
Yes.
during your time, so I got to see that side of you. You're somebody that has a richness about all the different areas that you've invested yourself in. There is something unique about athletics and the drive and the commitment that one puts into it. You think about the physical aspect, but the intellectual aspect is also such a critical piece. And the thing I remember most about you as a soccer player, and I'll say this humorously, but at least at the start, you weren't very good.
No, not at all.
And
let's get that out there. Let's be clear.
And you didn't have great skill. So one of the things about soccer in particular as a sport is, if you haven't grown up playing soccer from the moment you were born, and that wasn't something that was a constant in your life, it's very difficult to learn the skills adequately to play at a high level when you get older, because of the subtleties of the game. So at Perkiomen, we've always had a range of kids. We've had a couple of authentic soccer stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some from Germany or from the United States. We've got some great U.S. players at the moment. And then we'd have some kids that played a lot of soccer and were pretty good at soccer, maybe not the greatest athletes. And then we'd have legitimate athletes that played other sports and excelled, that played during that season and used their athleticism to be successful. And the thing that you brought, and the fondest memory I have of coaching you, is, I would say very plainly, especially when you were playing fullback, we could not afford to lose the ball back there. We didn't have enough talent or skill around to mess around. And your talent level, your skill level, wasn't up there at that point. So what did I say to you every time you got the ball?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. So you touch the ball 1 or 2 times and get rid of it. And I remember every game when you got the ball, I would stare you down when you got it, and you'd get rid of it, and you'd look over at me to say, I did it, Mr. Devey, and I would praise you. And what was so great about you was you not only listened, and as you got better and your skills grew as you moved into your further years on the team, you had greater self-confidence, and then you were able to take it to the next level up, and without taking the great risk. But the thing you provided there for that squad was commitment, leadership, and when there was a player on the other team that you had to mark, you were all over him and you gave it all you had. So even if you weren't successful every time, your commitment served as a model for the other kids, and that transferred to lacrosse where you had an even greater skill set. And so the modeling through your actions is what you brought to athletics. Really no greater honor, I think, than that. Being a really skillful player means little unless you can really drive that home in a way that helps the team achieve success. And your influence in both of those programs was significant. So I was lucky to experience that.
I'm so happy you're able to recall all that. That's so,
Are you kidding?
I'm not sure too many coaches would.
Yeah, no way. I'd never forget that. So,
oh my God.
So reflecting back, we're a school that's risk to be your best. Tell me of a risk you took. Tell me of something you did that was out of the box. Something what wasn't in your comfort zone that you did when you were at Perkiomen.
So, in terms of not let's start with outside of my comfort zone. I think engaging in the social diversity work that's present on campus and the leadership opportunities that come with that were something that's outside of a lot of people's boxes, especially if they haven't been exposed to that type of discussion and that type of networking previously.
Yeah.
So with to go to MARD, to go to SDLC, and those types of conferences to engage with other students and talk about the topics of the day were really valuable for me. But they're really at first there can be a little bit hard to break into because the nature of the conversation is very real, and for a lot of students it's grounded in their own personal experience. And for me, I was able to engage, but also really went there to learn about the experiences of other students and from a lot of different backgrounds. And that for me was something where at the initial part was difficult, but I also knew that leaning into that was probably the best thing I could have done. And frankly, I made a lot of really great friends with that through that, and I did it for about 3 years of high school too.
Yeah, so that's could be one of the most enriching experiences for just about every student I know that participated in that. And it's interesting. You have a personality where you're not only somebody that's really grown in confidence and can lead, but you're also a good listener. And there's such a critical importance in all of us, in our experiences, for us to be smart enough to know that we don't have all the answers. And you've been very effective at making good use of the knowledge around you, and then be able to apply that and take advantage of those experiences. So I'm really glad that was a place where you put yourself, and that you were able to take so much from it.
And I think there's something to be said too that kind of speaks to like some of the larger tenets at Perkiomen, because while you're there, you meet students who have all types of skill sets, and for a lot of students, there are these really specific niche skills and niche experiences that they've had. Yeah. And for me to really just to continue that type of I want to say that process of going through and meeting students and meeting people who do things differently and really taking a deep dive into whatever they are. That's kind of a broader component to our culture at school. Yeah,
and I think the thing that stands out to me about that, Liam, is when you do that and you open yourself up, you are showing others a respect for who they are and their perspective. You may not agree with them, but to allow people to have a voice and have an opportunity where it's safe to be able to express that, that doesn't exist everywhere. You know, that's not
right.
necessarily in the cards at a lot of schools. So I think that's one of the real benefits of that, is that we all gain from that, and it empowers all the students. So I think that's a good observation on your part. So if I know you haven't been out for very long.
No.
You've thought though about your school experience. You're a deep thinker. If you had a chance to go back right now and redo something, is there anything that sort of stands out to you that you wish you had, tried out for the school play and been in a musical, or?
So actually, it's funny that when I thought about this and talking today, I realized that something I really missed and I felt it at graduation was I didn't try to sing while I was there, and
It's funny that I mentioned that. I had no idea. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So so my family, when we go to church, we like to sing. We sing, together, and that's something that I didn't get on the stage while I was there to sing. And I was on, like you mentioned, I had leadership positions and I was able to speak publicly. But I never got the chance to. I didn't go after chorus. I didn't go after the school plays. And obviously, there's while you're at Perkiomen, it's very hard to touch every aspect of the community.
Right.
It's just such a wide range. But that is definitely something I think about, because my grandfather always loved when we would sing when we were and I wasn't able to make it work while I was there. But definitely, if I could go back, I would.
Yeah, it's so hard. We work diligently to try to provide every opportunity possible for people to get a lot of different exposure, but it isn't possible to do everything. But there's nothing like being on stage and being part of a crew that experience something like that together. Maybe you can do that while you're in college. You never know. You could.
I'm looking. There are some a cappella groups on campus. I'll look into that further, I think.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So let me go back to risk-taking for a moment. So this is a great opportunity for you to be at just a fantastic university. When you think of the decisions you're going to make during these next few years, and then as you become a young professional, so what do you think now about risk-taking? When is the time to take the risk? When is the time to be conservative? What have you learned through your experiences at Perkiomen that you might apply to college or as you look ahead?
Yeah, so I think there are two ways you can look at this. You can take sort of the macro approach about risk taking and maybe some of the general wisdom surrounding it, and then there are specific micro events in your life where you have the chance to take risks. And I'll start with maybe some of the smaller moments where you should be looking to take risk. And I think that when you're in school, when you're in high school, it's really what makes risk-taking important is because you learn something about yourself every time that you do it. And those moments when you're not taking risks and you're just staying in what you know and staying close to home, staying close to your base of understanding and what you feel you're good at or comfortable, you lose opportunity. You lose the chance, because every time you don't take a risk, that when we talk about risks, we're talking about risks that enrich us or further us.
Yep.
And when we don't take those risks, we're letting those opportunities go by the wayside to either other people, or they don't come around again.
Right.
And that's something that you can't, you can feel comfortable living with that, or that's something that you'll feel regret for later. And what's special about Perkiomen and why I think we talk about risk-taking a lot is because we actually create the conditions where risk-taking is safe and, in fact, supported. So there's actually this element where, we're taking the risk out of risk-taking, right, because we're so supportive, we're so engaging, we work to make sure that those risks are positive and enriching. Not to use the same word, but it's what it is. And so when I'm in school, when I'm now in college and university, I find myself thinking about, obviously there's a little bit, every level is a higher stake because a lot of this will be reflected in maybe career decisions or maybe grad school or things of that nature. But I think about it's really easy now for me to say, is this risk a positive risk? Is this something that I'm going to regret? And will this come around again? And because at Perkiomen, it was something we talked about. It was in our general ethos, it was in our general conversation, even in advising. I'd sit with my academic advisor and say, is this a course that I should be looking into? Is this something is this a positive risk for me? While juggling all the other components to school. How can you be doing that? And that's something I'm thankful for.
Yeah. Right.
And I wanted to touch just quickly on the bigger concept of risk taking for a lot of people, because I feel like I talked about what could I do differently and what could I have done what could I have done in my time that wasn't as trying to come up with the right word to say it, but that would have made it better for me. But it's this feeling of if you're feeling stressed or uncomfortable and you're feeling like you have to stay in your specific box, then it's actually one of the best times to take a risk and to leave that space, because something's not working for you and something is not clicking. And when you step outside of those things, you take those risks, well, there's that brief period of maybe it feels uncomfortable, but usually you find something that you're better at because you're leaving that space for a better one.
Right. That's great. I really appreciate the way you're speaking about missed opportunities. And you can't do everything, and it's not possible. And when we talk about risk, we don't mean doing something crazy. We're talking about opening yourself up to new opportunities. And I just think that you did a wonderful job of positioning yourself in a place where you did a variety of different things and you invested yourself in those. And I always think of you as good a representative of the school as I've ever known, because you did what I talk about this all the time, forgive me, but my dad said to me, the one thing I expect from you is I expect you to invest yourself in everything that exists in the school. I want you to be all in.
Yeah.
He didn't look at my grades. He didn't criticize or judge how I was doing. He went to all my games, but he didn't, critique me. He just wanted me to be a part of things. So I chose to do that, and it could not have been more fulfilling. My best friends and I was talking with my two best friends today and joking about things in school. I'm 56 years old. This is a long, long, long time ago, but we fully lived out school in a way where we didn't hold back. And so I just think that's a great model for the way others could experience that. And you can't do everything, but when you participate in the life of the school, great things come of it. So it's the same thing in college. You need to be playing club sports. So many kids play sports all the time in prep school, and they go to college and then they sit around and some will run or some will get in the gym or whatever. But the joy of being a teammate and to be committed to something together is so enriching. You don't want to lose that. So, you need to remind yourself to hold on to those things that you valued while, broadening your experience to new things.
Yeah, no, you're so right. I feel those exact things. And I think I'd like to say, just when going back to this theme of risk taking, there is something to be said that when you take risks in high school and the boarding day setting at Perkiomen, when you do that, and every time you take those risks and find something out about yourself, that's one less thing you might have to be concerning yourself with at the university level and beyond. Yeah. And not only that, you're finding something out about yourself earlier. Yeah. And what I realized very quickly at Perkiomen was I actually really love to write, and I like to read Shakespeare, and I like to read older texts. And that was something that, although I'm studying finance, that's something I incorporate into my education. I take those courses, I value those times. And had I really not kind of leaned into that side of myself, or had just brushed it off and not taken, engaged in the writing center, working as a writing tutor in high school, had I not, really talked with my professor, my English teachers in school, and really got to talk with them, and we got to talk about great ideas and great works. And that was something that had I not taken that risk of maybe just engaging with people I didn't know that well, and not talking, not speaking as candidly with my teachers, my educators, as early as I had, I don't think I would have been as fulfilled to the level of fulfillment I have currently.
Yeah.
And I think it's frankly it's like the earlier you're able to do all this, and the safer the environment, the more positive the outcome. And that's just something that, at university they say, get involved, engaged with all types of groups, and you should do that. But you can narrow it. And I know that I was able to find specific sections of our community at Villanova to, engage with a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, that's great. So I have one last thought. So what inspires you? What do you read? What social media are you keeping an eye on? What are the things that you're focusing on today that interest you?
So I currently I read a lot of political commentary. I read a lot about like economic policy, and that's just something that comes with school. But I've also taken sort of this bigger issue talking about how do we solve these bigger like macro government questions, and these bigger political questions really.
Yeah.
And it's not I find myself reading a lot of different work. So for instance, Brian Stevenson, whom I actually got to hear at SDLC my sophomore year of high school. He just because he was a presenter there, I got excited by him. And for those who don't know, he's an American lawyer, and he was the author of the book Just Mercy, which is a major motion picture that came out recently. And I got turned on to him in high school. Mm-hmm. And he's someone who I follow because he's really about changing the way our judicial system works and our like jurisprudence in the United States. And he's someone I follow fairly religiously.
Yep.
I also look at a lot of different in high school I was really interested in behavioral economics, and that's like a specific interest of mine. And so there's authors like Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler, and these guys won the Nobel Prize in economics for their work on this subject. And I think it's really valuable for everyone because it's asking questions on like how does our own psychology influence our decision making, and thus the broader economy, which obviously in the news is a pretty hyper it's a pretty common discussion right now.
Right.
And I think finally, like I do in terms of just general inspiration, like right now anyways, I'm inspired by our healthcare workers and our nurses, and it's just something that every time time and time again do we say we thank our healthcare workers and nurses for their work. And I definitely, having had family who work in healthcare and nursing, I'm continually inspired by their personal stories, but now more than ever.
Yeah, it's remarkable during challenging times like this, the individuals who rise up and the people on whom we depend, that we don't always think of in that manner, when things are good. And it's like the firefighters that are out there, and you hear some, alarm go off somewhere. These are volunteer firefighters. These are people that weave this into their lives when they're doing something else, but they're trying to save someone's life, as a part of their normal routine. And the whole healthcare profession right now is being stressed beyond belief. But everybody within that industry, whether you're talking about the people that are on the front line or the people behind the scenes that are trying to make the vaccines to help, protect us from these things, that whole industry is so significant in the impact that it has on our lives, which is the driving force for why we ended up opening up the Medical Institute at Perkiomen, so kids earlier on can begin to uncover, what drives them or what their interests might be in give them a better sense of self, or figure out that it's not the area they want to go into, but at least get a deeper experience. And so, the healthcare industry right now is clearly a focal point for us, as are the decision makers who are involved in how all of this works. So life is complex, and I appreciate your intellectual capacity and the risks you take in putting yourself out there and learning and growing and developing as a young person. I will say, my best memory of you is when you came into my office, and you came into my office to try to help us be better as an institution. And this happens every now and then, but it's rare that a student sets up a meeting with the head of school to come in and have a candid conversation about how to make the school better. And you were eloquent and right on, and you were just trying to think of ways in which we could continue to grow and blossom through your lens. And we pose questions of students, and I try to include students in everything that I do, every project or everything that we're trying to grow as an institution. But you took that on your own, and I was really proud of you and impressed beyond belief. And the most important thing was, similar to so many of our individuals at our school, you care deeply about the school and you want us to thrive. So that's what's exciting about connecting with alums like you and important members in our school community. And delighted to have you today as one of the first folks on live at the Creamery. And obviously we will stay in touch. I'm close with your parents and cheering on your younger brother, who's a rock star in and of himself, who will probably be on one of these in the future. So,
hopefully.
So listen, proud of you, Liam. Impressed with the way you've created pathways for others, and let's continue to stay connected. So thanks for being my guest.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
You bet. Live at the Creamery. Have a great day.